Welcome to Grow My Etsy Shop podcast, the drips of knowledge you need to start growing. Hey, welcome. So for those who've been following along, you know that I recently did kind of like a year-long coaching program that I'm doing, and I've got a handful of Etsy shops that I'm working with for the year. And I just met with someone yesterday who is a successful Etsy shop and looking to work together for a year so that we can continue to grow them and get them the success that they need. And so I thought she had two major questions that I thought were really interesting, and we could talk about both of those today. So the first one was, she has a product, and this product can be manipulated in different ways so that it can kind of target different things, but the product as its core stays the same. I want you to think of it as like, I make a shoe that's for runners. Well, I could change the shoelaces, I can change the design of it, but at the end of the day, it stays for runners, right? It's for people wanting to buy. It's a shoe. It never changes the fact that it's a shoe. Her product is something similar in that it can change in the way that you present it, but it stays the same. So she's done a good job at sort of changing it. And sometimes the changes work for her and sometimes they don't. But ultimately, the main keywords that are bringing her success don't actually pivot too much from her products. Shoes, right? Running shoes. She owns those keywords on Etsy. And so she's starting to manipulate her product a bit so that works. And that's exactly what she should be doing, because there is sales that you can gain from that. You can find little tractions that are in there. You're getting a certain person to come to your store, and now you're offering them variety. It's all great. This is awesome. The problem that she's running into is that, well, she's sort of at the top of the keywords that are associated with her product. And so you can keep doing these little changes, but you're going to get little growth that comes with these little changes, unless you're able to expand into new audiences that are of similar interest to the ones that you're currently getting. As long as you can stay really close to the beat of the people who are already coming in. So for example, if you were to take your running shoes and you were to push them over to tennis, and you were to push them over to basketball, and you were to push them over to another sport that wears shoes, now you're moving more into the athletic wear. And you have a full category and a full niche in your store that's for runners, but you've moved up into that. And so there's a lot of research that goes into that, because let's just stay in our shoe analogy here. If you go on Etsy and type in basketball shoes, you're not going to show up at the top. But there's going to be a lot of other stores who are successful selling basketball shoes that are at the top. So you have to kind of reverse engineer what they're doing, making sure that they're making their money. And this is a lot what we were doing on the call together. Or I guess this is a better way to say this, or you can take your runners and present them to new audience or new people. Meaning, she's just on Etsy and she's at the top of these keywords. Well, what if she takes it into a different platform? Well, are there runners on that platform that aren't on Etsy? Yes. Can she take the same product and scale that product? Yes. So she's kind of in this, when we made our goals for the year, she's like, well, I'm at that fork point where I either need to expand my audience and expand what I'm doing, which is all takes place on Etsy. That's what Etsy's for. It's for getting validation of products. And now she's also on the stage of, well, I also need to grow what it's currently working for me on new platforms. And this is where we can really scratch our head, because it's like, what is that step? So a lot of us go, well, I'll build a website, because a website will do it for me. And for those who've built a website, no, traffic just doesn't just arrive like it does on Etsy. And naturally, this person I was working with said, okay, well, why aren't people showing up? Oh, it must be my SEO. So I'm going to hire someone to do the SEO of my website so that I show up in search and people will buy my product. I want to have a conversation with you guys today who may be having a similar thought on this. And I want to kind of discuss the pros and cons of this strategy and maybe help you see the best strategy going forward. So Etsy SEO and Google SEO, there's a lot of similarities between the goals of the platform, meaning both are trying to present the correct search or the correct result to the search. So Etsy, though, is an e-com site. So when someone searches for jade earrings, Etsy knows they are searching to purchase jade earrings, and then it starts to present them the listings that are most likely to convert for that buyer. Google is trying to do the same thing, but with all questions. People wanting to know who has the longest toenails in 2024, everything. And I want you to take just the volume of the amount of people who are on Google and who use Google compared to Etsy. So if you take your Etsy store, I want you to times it by 1,000, the type of competition that you're going to be going against. And another thing I want you to note is that Etsy's built to kind of have this seamless front page where it doesn't feel like you're moving down multiple pages. This is from the mobile device, where Google is built a little bit more on pages and allowing only a certain amount at the very, very top of what you're searching for. So what I'm trying to say is Google is astronomically more competitive than what you would ever experience on Etsy. And it's on both ways. So you're getting more volume, but way more competition in what you're doing, and you have less of an opportunity to be presented where the click areas are on Google than you are on Etsy. So this is an extremely depressing thought, but this is what we naturally do, because if we're not problem solvers, we go, oh darn, guess I'll just sit on the back of the bus and never get my website seen. Or you can say, okay, well, how do I solve this problem? Which is what a lot of entrepreneurial people will do. And naturally, when you say, well, how do I solve this problem? You say, well, what if I use SEO techniques to bring me to the front of Google? Then I'll be good. But so I don't have the skill set to do it. So let me hire an expert. Let me hire an SEO expert who's going to take my website from point A to point B. And now I'll generate sales. I'll pay them monthly, and we're all good and skipping off and singing into the sunset together. Well, let me jump into this. The biggest scam on the internet is SEO experts. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't good SEO experts. I'm not saying that there are people who can really help you grow in what you're doing. What I'm saying is you will have to push through a lot of mud to find people who are good at what they do. And the problem, when you find the person who's as good as they say they are, their promises won't be near as big as the people who are trying to steal your money. SEO is an extremely hard thing to quantify. It takes a really long time. And so a salesman, we'll call him a salesman, can say, well, if it takes a really long time to do it, here's a great example. I'm going to give it to you just as clean as I can. If I'm someone who's trying to help someone lose weight, I could go on the internet today and create a profile and say, look, I'm a health coach. I'm going to help you lose weight. And I can make big promises. I'm going to help you lose weight. In 60 days, you're going to have a shredded six-pack. Because I know you're going to pay me for that shredded six-pack. Now, I know some of the principles that are going to be better for you. You're going to see some results. Because when you meet with me, I'm going to say, hey, cut sugar out, cut some carbs out, and do some sit-ups, right? And in that scenario, you're like, oh, hey, I'm seeing a difference in my body. Now, is that going to be 60 days? No. Did I make a bold promise that doesn't exist? Yes. Was my purpose to get you excited and bring you in? Yes. That's about what SEO experts do in 2024. They'll make big promises of let me put it this way. We're friends here. We could just talk straight. If someone says they're going to put you on the front page of Google, they're lying to you. No one can guarantee that. Nobody can. There is so much that goes into that. The number one factor is competition of keyword. So there are certain keywords, and this is what an SEO expert would be good at, is knowing where they can find these windows of opportunities to place you on the front of these kind of more obscured, low volume keywords. But when it comes, if you're a new fish coming out with, and look, you are competing against the biggest companies in the world. There's always someone bigger than you. There's always someone better than you. And those people will always win unless you become better than them. Now, better can sometimes just be time. time on the internet, time with SEO. So let's talk about some of the biggest principles that that Google looks at when it comes to SEO. And you've probably heard some of these terms. Now, these have switched throughout time. The algorithm is always changing. And the reason the algorithm changes is that it's trying to prevent the wrong items from showing up. That's the whole purpose, is they're trying to make the search as close to what the person actually wants as possible. They're trying to read your mind, which is why they stock your data, which is why they collect everything that they do. It's why they have the profile data, and it's why they know how long everyone stays on websites. And no. It's because they're trying to find the best results for your search. Okay. You've probably heard this term. It's called backlinks. What are backlinks? Backlinks are when websites have your link on their website. Okay? This means if the New York Times writes a post about your Etsy shop, well, the weight is what they call it of New York Times is heavy, meaning it has a lot of credibility. And so when your website gets placed on the New York Times, your website it will be very credible to Google that you are a legitimate business that is worth promoting to their users. Okay? That is the term of backlinking. Now, how many of us are going to land on the New York Times? Not a whole lot of us. So what another strategy that takes place is the number of backlinks that you have. This is where SEO companies will say to you, hey, I can get you backlinks. And you go, hey, that's fantastic. But listen, if they put you on a bunch of backlinks that don't have much authority themselves, are you getting a boost in SEO? Yes. In theory. It's the same way of if I said to you, hey, I'm going to have you eat 12 carrots a day. Would you be more healthy eating 12 carrots a day than you were not eating 12 carrots a day? Yeah. Is it going to give you the shredded six-pack that you're hoping for? No. But are you more healthy? Yes. That's how most of these SEO companies work. They're going to give you backlinks, but they're not super credible backlinks. So you're eating carrots. Six-pack? No. Healthier? Yes. You get what I'm saying here? That's step one. And realistically, I wouldn't work with an SEO company unless they offered backlinks to what they're doing. Another criteria I would have is content creation. This is truly how a small business is going to get SEO. Now, before I jump into content, I do want to share this because these are other things you're going to hear, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through them. So if an SEO company starts to say, look, we're going to help you with your meta tags. We're going to help you with your H1 tags. We're going to get you, you're going to hear a lot of this kind of like, what is this? And that isn't anything you need to pay monthly for. Is it good for you? Yes. The same way eating carrots is good for you. In fact, this is when you're messing with your meta tags and whatnot, what you're essentially doing is you're telling Google what it is that you sell. So can you grow can your website grow in SEO if Google doesn't know what you're selling or what you're trying to present to? No. The same way Etsy can't do the same thing. If you put a product up on Etsy and you're selling, let's just go back, a shoe, and you never put the shoe keywords into your titles, they're never going to know you're selling shoes, and they're just going to move you to the side. Well, Google has way more content than Etsy does, and you're way more likely to be moved to the side if they can't figure out what the heck you're selling. They're not going to take the time to try to figure that stuff out. And so that type of SEO where they come in and kind of help you teach the algorithm what it is, the crawl that takes place, what it is that you're selling, can be a useful thing. It's just not something you should pay monthly for. And again, it's sort of like saying, hey, you want to run a marathon? I do. Great. You need to buy a ticket. And you go, okay. And so you buy a ticket. And where a lot of us think is like, okay, great. I'm on my way to run a marathon. It's like, well, no. You can't run a marathon in your physical state. You don't have shoes. You're not hydrated. You haven't trained, like nothing. You just have your ticket. That's essentially what that is. When they do kind of that cleanup of your website, it's essentially like getting the ticket. Okay, now don't worry. We're going to solve this because you may be thinking like, okay, well, I guess I have to do that because if I don't have my ticket, what am I supposed to do? I'll teach you. Okay. So hold on, hang out with me for a second. If you are a big company, or if you are in a very unique niche, Google SEO could be worth your money. Because if the keyword volume is very small, meaning you don't have a lot of competitors, there's not a lot of people who are bidding for the keywords that you want. And most times we're going for long tail keywords and whatnot, which is why content marketing works, which I'll get to in 1 second. But if you are really small, at one point I worked with a guy, he made, well, I don't know if I want to say it. He made, I guess a good way to say it is a way to house ants. And it was a really unique product. Someone like that, where you look at this and you go, oh my gosh, this is super unique, yet people are on the internet, hobbyists of like people who keep ants, and they're probably looking for something that has some of the pros that this guy was selling. Like that's where you would be more like, okay, I think we can kind of target ant hobbyists, which isn't going to be a huge keyword, with some of our stuff, and this could work. But let me share something with you. SEO takes like a year to work. Like someone who's good at SEO, they'll tell you this. They'll be upfront with you. They'll say you won't really see results because it's all happening in the background. You're just going from place 9 billion to now 8 billion to now 7 billion to now 6 billion. So you're going to see the progress of what's taking place. And this is where scammers come in, because scammers can just make reports and tell you, oh, hey, instead of being 9 billion, you're only 8 billion. And they'll send you those reports and you think you're growing in Google, but you ain't. They're not doing much. They're just feeding you carrots and telling you you're getting healthier. That's my beef with SEO. And realistically, as a small business, if someone's coming in and charging you less than $1,000, a couple $100 a week or a month to help your small business SEO, you couldn't be wasting your money more. It is just not going to work for you. You are in too big of a sea with a very small little marathon running coach who's just giving you carrots and telling you you're going to be able to run a marathon. It's just not going to work. So you aren't going to waste your money on this. Now, here's where I would be more open to. If someone came to you and said, we will content market for you. Now, that is SEO marketing. So they might package it as SEO marketing. And you might see, now, you guys, I don't know about you, but I get people who send me my little website, hey, Jared, Etsy Master, we've gone through your website and oh my gosh, you have the worst rating we've ever seen in our lives. We can fix that for you if you just book a call with us. I get those like 8 times a week because it's a scam. So I just want to make sure that's all clear. Okay. So content marketing, but if someone approaches you and says, hey, SEO, I can help you kind of grow your business. Your questions are going to be, what are you going to be doing? You should hear things like the meta tags and all that kind of stuff. That's clean. That's getting you the ticket. And then they're going to say things like, hey, we're going to do these weird backlinkings, all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's carrots. That's healthy. But am I going to be able to complete a marathon with this? If they say content marketing, that's where I want you to put your finger on them and say, tell me about that. Walk me through your content marketing strategy. Now, what they should do, and this can be done by an SEO company, it can be done by you, is, because keep in mind, Google is a search platform. So there's people who are searching to buy products, but then there are people who are searching for questions about products. So they'll say, hey, back to our ant guy, how do I clean an ant farm? Is a question that they're going to have. Now, that's where someone who writes content can create content that helps someone on how to clean an ant farm. And from there, that when they search for that, as people get presented your stuff, if they stay and read the article, this is where you're going to hear a lot of the Etsy similarities. If they stay and read, and Google's seeing like, oh, this person's staying for this. If they don't continue to search after your article is another one, right? So they start to see like, oh, this answered that person's question. You start to move up in that search. So the way you want to write content marketing is by solving the questions that your buyers have from your website. So that's where the blog comes in, right? That's where you can essentially write blogs, write articles, write things that solve problems, and then go. Now, an SEO company is going to help you write that, or hopefully they write it so that it is broke, because there is a technique to that, right? So in Google, if you want to go through it really quick, it's like you have your headline. That headline is what Google's going to take as what the article is about. And then you have to have the keywords that you're trying to hit mentioned several times throughout. Usually you try to end with it as well. And then, you write it in a format so that it's, it could be bullet pointed so that the topics are there, because Google's going to scan your stuff and try to present bullet points that's there. And then you want to be able to be found like on search. on like voice search and stuff like that. So when someone voice searches for it, there's a specific way to write all that. Now, that is if you're in a spot where your Etsy store's capped and you're like, gosh, I'm at the top of my keywords. I want to start doing my stuff. I have a website right now. That's something that you can hire for a year, because it takes about a year of someone getting in there and writing multiple content for you a month. Now, AI. My episode last week got some people mad at me. But AI is also another thing that we kind of have to keep in mind, because if someone says to you, hey, pay me X amount of dollars a month. Now, again, you can pay someone not a whole lot to write articles for you. So this is why I'm saying they package it as SEO so that they can charge more, but they're just pumping you full of carrots. Content marketing is probably the best bet for small business, okay? Now, if you get somebody who wants to and is writing your content for you, most likely they're going to use AI in it, because why wouldn't they, right? They can get a billion clients with what they're doing. They write AI, they take your topics, they give the prompts, and it goes. So here's the $1 million question. How does Google feel about AI? Google will promote AI content. They're okay with it as long as it's good content. So essentially what they say is, and this is true, they have a system to figure out good content and bad content, and they're really, really good at it. So if you get the article back from this company and you read it and you go, oh, this sounds AI and it's not great, it's never going to work. If you feel that way, they're going to be able to get the data really quick that it doesn't work, and you're gone. And now what are you doing? You're paying someone to write articles that are never seen, and that's not what you want. So you need to have someone who's in there, or yourself, get in there and really write out solutions to problems that people have, and then have those problems. So Jared, is this something you do? Kind of. Keep in mind, I'm a part-time coach, but I do have blog articles that I've written on specific episodes that do really well. And does it work? Yes. I get hundreds of clicks to my websites from people searching for certain questions, and they read my stuff. And then at the end I say, hey, look, if you want to jump into this, I got this thing for you. And I push it that direction. Now, just like Etsy, if you have a website that gets 12 visits a month, Google's going to assume people don't like your stuff. But if you start writing articles and you start getting views into your thing, that just boosts your store organically, starting to move up a little bit. And now you're landing on the front page of some of these blog articles, and these blog articles can make you money because they never go away. You can have them up for years and years and years. Some of mine I wrote in 2019, and they still get hits, bringing people into what I'm doing. So it's just time consuming to write articles. And so, yes, if you can get with, my philosophy is you do the keyword research, which Google has something called Keyword Planner. You can get in there and kind of see what people are searching for. YouTube's another great tool to use. Go into YouTube and type like, how do I, and something about your niche. You're going to see all sorts of different questions come up. You take those headlines, you watch the videos, you write articles, or you take the transcripts of the YouTube videos, give it to the AI. AI will write out what the transcript is, and then you go in and add your touch in. Okay, of what it is that you feel like can make difference, add some stuff, take away some stuff. Because what you don't want to have happen is have someone else do the exact same thing, and now there's two identical products on the internet, and now you got a problem, because that's going to be seen as scam. So put your own touches on what you're doing, and you can create a content strategy. So one of the things I love that I'm doing this year-long coaching is that I can essentially say to the person I was speaking to and say like, hey, look, we have a year together. So let's start today with some of these little things that are going to make a difference by the time you and I are parting ways again. And so here's the strategy. Here's what I would do, and lay it out that way, which is essentially, hey, do content marketing, write it out. And again, if you can write out an article and you can give it to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you write this so that it's maxed keywords for these search phrases? And it'll go and rewrite it, write all for you so that it's that way. You know what I mean? So if you're a good writer and you just want those tweaks from AI, that could be really helpful for you. And then you essentially put that onto your blog of what you're doing, and you're creating this thing, and then you can promote those as your own content of what's happening so that you get a little boost of views to it. And then from there you can go. Okay, I'm going to end this with my final thoughts on this. Most people who are looking to get found on Google because they've tapped the top of Etsy, right? They're cooking on Etsy and they're just ready to kind of get in a bigger audience and all this kind of stuff, don't have time to sit to do for a year's worth of content writing and wait that year. So that's why they're trying to hire someone to do SEO for them so that they feel like they can get the big promise of a 6-pack in 60 days, okay? This is my advice. Take the money you're going to spend on your SEO. So if I said to you, hey, are you willing to spend $500 a month to be on the top of Google? And someone says, yeah, I would. Then give it to freaking Google AdWords. It'll do it for you. You literally tell it the keywords that you want. You could bid on, look, okay. I don't want to get too into this, but this is what I do. I'm a paid media buyer. I work with some big names and whatnot, and some people and one of the first questions, I feel bad saying this, but let's just talk about it. One of the first questions I usually ask is, who's your biggest competitors? And they tell me the names of them, and I bid on those keywords. It works. A lot of the times people say, wow, I'm seeing results. And I look at their account and I'm like, ugh. Yep, it's because people are searching for your competitors and I'm showing up. That is a great little black hat technique, if you will, that you can bid on other people's keywords, on other things. And a lot of times you can even adjust the keywords. So, you're going to see this if you type in an email provider. If you say like, if you go to Google and say, MailChimp, for example, MailChimp email thing, you're probably going to see a Google ad that pops up that says the best alternative to MailChimp, or don't pay MailChimp's prices, or, you're going to see something that shows up because these big wigs are doing it. People don't really do it on a small frame like you guys. And so it's a good technique to kind of go in there and do it. But anyway, if you take the money that you would have spent on SEO and give it to Google, you'll be at the top of Google. You're just paying for it. And from there, because here's the whole other side of SEO is that, like, you may do all the work to get and work with the honest person who says, I can't, I'm going to do the best I can. And we're going to make you these promises. We're going to get you as marathon ready as we can be. We're not going to guarantee that you're going to win the Boston Marathon, but we think you can finish the marathon. You'll see a boost. You'll see conversions. Your life is going to get better. They'll get you to that spot. And if your website doesn't convert, you just did all that for nothing. Google Ads allows you to see the data. So as you're like, hey, I've received great searches, I'm not getting conversions, you can now start addressing the true problem, which is, hey, my website's not converting. How can I get this to convert for me? So take what you would spend on SEO, put it into Google Ads, be at the top of Google. It saves you a butt ton of time. It gets you to the front. You get data. You already have data from your Etsy store, so you already know what keywords are really working for you. You know you can convert those keywords. Like, just put it into Google AdWords and run with it. So that's my overall message. Someone who's paying for SEO, like, I get it. It's good long-term strategy. It pays off in the long run because you have an organic presence that doesn't cost money. But as soon as you stop doing SEO, it will start to kind of fade a bit. And yeah, just pay to be at the top is sort of where I stand. Okay, guys, until next week. Hey. So if you're still here, I did get some questions this week. I thought I'd just answer those at the end of this episode because, why not? I finished it up. I thought, well, I got some questions I can answer, so might as well jump into this. So one of the questions I got was someone who was struggling in sales, not getting clicks, their ad account wasn't spending, yada, yada, yada. They ended up putting their products for a bit cheaper, going on sale more or less, and suddenly got some sales. Now, are they as profitable? No. Are they getting sales though? Yes. So the question that this individual asked was like, well, what happened? Why was it that what should I, as a store owner, how should I internalize the fact that when I'm full price, no one's buying from me? When I go on a sale, I start to see some action. So there's two things that you need to know. Number one is Etsy does like variety in their pricing. So the whole point of when someone searches for a vague keyword, hey, I'm looking for a picture frame. They go, okay. We don't know what color, we don't know what size, we don't know what your price point is, we don't know how many you want, we don't know. And so they like variety to be able to say, look, here's a $10 frame. Here's a $50 frame. Here's a $500 frame. Here's a gold frame. Here's a brown frame. Here's a triangle frame. Here's a circle frame. Like they just kind of give you a variety so that you can choose the one that you want. And then they're like, okay, thank you. We now know you're looking for $500 frames. And that helps them with their algorithm. Okay. So when you are really close to your competitors and whatnot, that can sort of blend in and doesn't give you an opportunity to stand out. If you go on sale, this can provide variety and sometimes move you up in the SEO, okay, or in the search. Not always, but yes, it can totally happen. Now, here's the $1 million question. Jared, could it happen the other way? If I raise my prices, well, the truth is you would most likely go back into the learning phase, and then they would use consumerism. They would use consumer clicks to figure out if that price increase was good or bad. So if you raised a $50 product to $500 and your click rates drop, they're like, oh crap. And then they move you to someone else who has higher click rates, right? So yeah, that's that answer. So let's go back to this. If you go on sale, you are probably going to get more clicks. And with more clicks, you can probably land more within people's price range and things like that. Like obviously, the cheaper your product is, the easier it becomes to sell. The more expensive a product is, the harder it becomes to sell. And that doesn't mean you can't sell. It just changes the way that you sell your products. You have to be much more concerned. Here's the thing. You can't look worse than someone else and be more expensive. So that's the truth of it. And if I was this shop owner, I'm looking at my competitors. Who is outselling me? And if you go, well, there isn't much competitors, that's your problem. People aren't searching for you. But if you look at it and say, well, yeah, there are some people out here who are doing better than me, then it becomes how? So do they look better than me? Do they have more reviews than me? And if they do look better than you, that's how you need to solve that problem. If they do have more reviews than you, you need to solve that problem. And how do you solve that problem? Sales. Sales solves that problem. People come in, the more people buy, the more reviews you get, and that's all there. So essentially you create your first listing, or you go on sale with your listings to see what's going to work for you. As those start to sell, people leave reviews and whatnot, and your store starts to get a bit of a boost. You'll feel it. Now, you may not be making money, but you're getting a boost in what you're doing. Now, what I would do in this technique is I would try to never change the listing that's bringing in the most traffic. So I did this when I had an Etsy shop. There was a color, oatmeal was the color, that everybody bought. And it was on the front page of a big inspirational keyword. And over time, I had raised my prices because I had started to outsource. I started to do all this kind of stuff. And I did not change the price of that one. I just had the listing essentially say sale. So there was one product, my oatmeal colored, that was on sale. And everything else was full price. That guy sold like 10 a day. Like people bought it. But then people who cared about colors, and people were willing to pay a little bit more for more variety and whatever it may be, would shop my store, and then I would get the rest of my orders throughout the day from my different stuff. But when I looked at my analytics, it was legit. Like that was my funnel. Like people were coming in through that listing and then shopping into my store, because my store, at least at this point, it was probably like my second or third year that I was doing this. I had one type of product. So I offered variety, I offered colors, I offered different sizes, but it was one specific keyword. So it happened to be that product was on there, and I knew if I increased the price, I'm going to blend in with my competitors, I'm going to lose the clicks to my store, or am I just going to learning and off I go, and that's going to kill my business. So I left that puppy on. That thing, I'm telling you, I would get 10 to 20 sales a day coming in from just that listing, but then I would get sales coming in from my store as well. And so it balanced out what I was doing. And then, and that was a technique I used for a long time to be able to outbid my competitors. Then that listing got mad reviews. It was really popular, and I was able to then cross-sell into what I was doing. I was able to upsell. I was able to, at this point, I was collecting emails, and then I was selling them back. Like I just used that as my top of funnel. Come in here, buy my stuff. I make like $3 off of this sale, but I get your email. You have potential to shop around. Most of my customers came back and bought products again, or I could offer different colors. I could bundle stuff together. I would then run promotions. Hey, I had I stole this from Subway. I ran Febu Any, which was, and their thing was like, any foot long, buy any 2 foot longs. And so I took a Febu Any, which is essentially, hey, if you buy a product, you get a second one. Anyway, the story goes on and on and on. But the moral of the story is, if you get a sale, it's helping your store. If you run a sale, you're kind of going into learning. If they start to see more clicks, you can get that boost. But if you just then turn your sale off, you're sort of in a similar position. It might be the best strategy is to have one that stays pretty significantly, not significantly, but cheaper. And you have that as your sale product. And that's kind of your salesman, right? That's the one that sits on the front page for you because Etsy loves it and brings people in. And then you just get really good at cross-selling or bringing people into your store through that listing. Okay, so I have a voicemail one, but I'm going to just save it. I'll probably do something similar. I'll just put it at the end of the episode of next week because I feel like this one's already kind of long. Okay, see you guys.